Yes. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell for me. So, my midget lovers, I watched it. I ain't gonna lie. I ended up watching it. You know, it was on. I was up. I woke up at like 7 this morning. Decided to hit the elliptical, man, so your man doesn't get fat. I can't be having no boobies, man. I'm not married yet. Can't be having no man boobies yet. You know, gotta wait till I get married. But anyways, man, I was up, so I decided to watch it. There was no pay-per-view. Unlike Benavidez, Zordo, I'm not watching that, bro. I'm just gonna watch the highlights. I know enough about boxing, you know, to glean the information from the highlights. I'm not paying no $80, bro. Fuck them. Absolutely fuck them. They can suck my left and right golden brown testicles. But anyways, bro, let me not get carried away here. So let me read off some facts here, and then we'll talk about it. So Naoya, I always struggle with that name. Naoya Inoue beats Junto Nakatani to remain undisputed and undefeated. Yes. Naoya Inoue defended his undisputed junior featherweight titles. I mean, these dudes are midgets. For those of you who aren't aware, these guys fight several weight classes below Tank Davis's midget ass. That fool. Anyways, Naoya Inoue defended his undisputed junior featherweight titles with a unanimous win over Japanese rival Junto Nakatani on Saturday. The judges scored it 116 to 112, 115 to 113, and 116 to 112, all in favor of the champion. In front of a sold-out 55,000 strong crowd at the Tokyo Dome, Inoue, who is 33-0 with 27 knockouts, produced a clean and clinical performance to win the biggest fight in Japanese boxing history. Wow, I didn't know that. I'm not a Japanese boxing historian, but that's interesting because they have such a warrior culture and ethos, you know, going back to the samurai and all that jazz. To win the biggest fight in Japanese boxing history and maintain his unbeaten status, keeping hold of his WBA, WBC, IBF, WBO, and Ring Magazine straps at 122 pounds. Both fighters began the bout reluctant to engage, but the tempo increased in round 4 with Inoue, who is number 2 on ESPN's pound-for-pound list, opening up and throwing his jab with more spite. The cagey start was a result of huge respect between the two champions, something which was evident throughout the contest. They touched gloves at the end of most rounds and were even seen smiling at each other at times as the action unfolded. Yeah, man. So, man, my thoughts on this midget fest. Like, as I said, midget lovers, women's fights lovers, don't get offended. I'm just giving my opinion. I'm not a fan of these. They're basically separate sports, bro. It's a totally different sport to me, you know. And I just generally do not enjoy watching women and smaller fighters because I want to see violence. You know, if you want me to pay $80 for a pay-per-view, I want violence. You know, and you just normally don't get that in the lower weight divisions. Hence, why I'm not a fan. But this fight in a vacuum, it was okay. It was an okay fight, right? The first 6 rounds, man. First of all, my first observations, Nakatani's got to be kicking himself. He's got to be kicking himself. I'm sure he's rewatched the fight by now. He's got to be kicking himself. Because for the first 6 rounds of the fight, Nakatani did absolutely nothing except throw out his goofy-looking backhanded jab. His jab is illegal, too. So for you Tyson Fury fanboys, see, I'm criticizing someone else. he was throwing out this goofy jab, and he had no desire to be dangerous. He had no intention of being dangerous, and it was just confusing to me, because Inoue wasn't being ultra aggressive. He was on the front foot for sure, and was throwing more shots, most of which Junto was able to catch on the gloves and get out of the way of. But Inoue was forcing the issue, so I gave him for sure the first 3 or 4 rounds. I may have given Junto one of the first 6 rounds because Inoue was forcing the action. He was being aggressive, and Nakatani didn't want to engage, didn't want to let his hands go, was very tentative. He was too circumspect, and he gave Inoue entirely too much respect. And, hence, you just pointed out here in this article by ESPN, Nakatani was just giving Inoue too much respect. It was almost like big bro, little bro, like this is a sparring session, like there's some unwritten agreement. I don't know what it is. It always seems to happen in the biggest fights. Like sometimes the big fights deliver, like Usyk Fury or Spence Crawford. I'm just thinking about recent like mega fights. But then other times they end up like this, or Crawford Canelo, where it's like, yeah, it was a good technical boxing match, but the guys just have way too much respect for each other. Did Crawford and Canelo have too much respect, or did they actually cancel each other out? That's debatable, to be fair. But in this instance, with this fight, they were way too respectful of each other, and it just ended up being a soporific fight. Very boring at first. Not a lot of action. Both guys being tentative, circumspect, risk averse, and fortunately for them, they're in Japan, and the Japanese audiences are very respectful. In juxtaposition to Western audiences, which tend to be very rowdy and lively and sing chants and whatnot and boo if there's not a lot of actions. Japanese people tend to be more respectful. But, the first 6 rounds were not entertaining, and it was mainly because Nakatani only seemed interested in countering, right? And that kind of seemed to keep Inoue honest. Is Nakatani did have that very, very long stance. He had a wide stance, and he was trying to keep it long, and he would throw the occasional left hand, sometimes straight, sometimes he'd loop it, and that kept Inoue honest because I think Inoue did respect Nakatani's power. And so it made for a very cagey fight, very, very, very cagey fight, where they was just kind of faffing around, having a look at each other, not trying to engage. However, the second half of the fight started to get good. I will say that I would say rounds 8 through 10, I was actually engaged. I said, wait a minute, we got to fight. Because Nakatani hurt Inoue. Inoue never hurt Nakatani. Nakatani was never hurt in this fight, which is, again, he has to kind of be kicking himself because he was hurting Inoue. When he landed a good lead right hook, good southpaw right hook, I believe in round 9 or 10, that snapped Inoue's head back and buckled his knees and really started to perturb him. Inoue was backing up. Don't normally see that from Inoue, but he was backing up and seemed to kind of be running out of ideas, running out of gas. And it looked like it was going to be a really, really interesting fight going down to the wire because it looked like Nakatani was picking up a lot of steam, and he was the one that was hurting Inoue, So, if Nakatani had maybe started this attack, this fusillade in round 4, I we could be talking about a huge upset here, but unfortunately for him, he was just too timid. That's the bottom line. Too timid and too respectful. And now credit to his trainer. I don't know his trainer's name, but his trainer told him, like, man, you got to be more aggressive. And he told him that at about the halfway point. He said, all right, man, you ain't had a look at him. You got to take a chance. You know, you can't just keep waiting for him to make a mistake. This dude's number 2 on the pound for pound list. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Even though Inoue, I take that back actually. Inoue can be reckless at times, hence why he's gotten put down a few times. But I mean, again, he's got great reflexes, great ring IQ. He's tough. He's a dog, and even if you drop him, you know, he can still get up and knock you out. He's got amazing power for a guy of his stature. But again, credit to Nakatani's corner for telling him, hey man, it's time to turn it up. We're halfway through the fight, and at best he was down 4-2 after 6 rounds. I think 5-1. But credit to Nakatani, he came on strong. I would say from rounds 8 through 10. Those rounds for sure I gave to Nakatani. He's being very aggressive, landing good shots. Again, that lead right hook, that was the most memorable punch of the fight in my mind. I have to go rewatch it, but just going off of memory from this morning, I would say that was the most memorable punch of the fight and the most damaging punch of the fight. Again, Inoue's legs were buckled. He was hurt. He was really hurt, and he was starting to get tired. But then the headbutt happens. And that just completely took all the wind out of Nakatani's sails. He couldn't see. You could tell it was bothering him. He kept squinting, and he was showing signs of distress. Not that he was hurt, but that he couldn't see. And Inoue, being a high IQ fighter, capitalized on it. You know, no mercy, no Yuri Prohaska. You know, where I claim to feel sorry for my opponent and get knocked out. Like, no, oh, he's hurt. Oh, he's bothered. I'm gonna take him out. You know, was the headbutt? Excuse me, intentional? I don't know. These guys are pros, so they know how to hide doing dirty stuff. You know, I do find it interesting that as soon as Inoue starts getting hurt, there's a clash of heads. It's kind of like Canelo Crawford. As soon as Crawford came out in round 9 and started piecing Canelo up for real and really started putting hands on him, there's a clash of heads, and it kind of just takes the momentum. You know, I've never clashed heads with anyone. I've only had fights with headgear on, but I can just imagine how it can be debilitating, especially he had a cut like right here, and the blood's just constantly dripping in his eye, getting in his mouth. You're tasting the blood, you know, which can make you nauseous. So it can just completely disrupt your rhythm. Like, Nakatani was starting to get into a flow state. He was starting to flow, and he was starting to look good. So it's really unfortunate that cut happened, but again, there's no evidence to suggest that Inoue did it on purpose. But I always find it interesting that these headbutts happen when the champ is getting hurt. You know, these guys, they know all the tricks. He's been boxing since he was a little boy, so he knows all the tricks. He's a master in the dark arts. All of them are. You know, so it is what it is. But I think the right man won. I had it 8-4 Inoue, 9-3 if you want to be ultra generous. And, you know, would I want to see a rematch? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I think it could be even more cagey because Inoue knows that Nakatani can hurt him. Maybe Nakatani starts off more aggressively. That'd be great. But if I'm Inoue, I'm trying to cash out and go fight Bam. I'm going to Turkey and I'm saying, hey, man, throw me 30, 40 million to go fight Bam. Because Inoue is vulnerable. Inoue is vulnerable, in my opinion. I think there's some vulnerability with the chin. You know, he was put down a couple fights ago by the Mexican guy who I think is trained by Robert Garcia. I could be wrong. could be wrong on that. I don't know for sure. But the Mexican guy he fought a couple fights ago, put him down, and he got hurt by Nakatani. And I think Nakatani could have put him down if he had been more aggressive. He might have been able to stop him. You know, Nakatani, again, got to be kicking himself because he could have won this fight for sure. But yeah, if I'm Inoue, I'm looking to cash out against Bam. You know, 30-40 million for a featherweight fight. That's like 150 million for a heavyweight bout. So that's great money. Cash out. Have it at the Tokyo Dome again. Sail off into the sunset because there's some vulnerability there. You know, Inoue is good. But when I look at guys who are in the pound for pound and potential future pound for pound guys like, say, a Moses Atauma, who might be pound for pound one day, there's this air of invincibility, right? There's no invincible fighter. All of these guys could lose. Usyk could get beat. Atauma could get beat. Inoue can get beat, right? You know, if Crawford comes back, maybe he could get beat. There's no invincible fighter. But when you watch the top guys, you feel like there's an inevitability to their victory. And I don't get that same sense with Inoue. I think he can at times be reckless. He just seems to have that reckless gene. You know, he has the IQ and the skills. You watch him and you see it. You're like, he's got all the tools. Great jab, great head movement. But sometimes he just gets reckless. And he did get tired in there. I think Nakatani really started to wear him out when he started putting pressure on him. And Nakatani started actually fighting like a big man and, you know, putting the pressure coming on the front foot. He started to wear Inoue out. So there's some vulnerability with the chin, with the gas tank. So if I'm Inoue, I'm looking to fight Bam. Not really interested in a rematch. I think it'll just be even cagier and just boring. You know, this fight, it wasn't a total dud, but it definitely didn't live up to the hype. You know, not damn squib, but didn't live up to the hype. So we'll see. Where does Nakatani go? Maybe he fights Bam. Maybe Bam decides to fight Nakatani. It's kind of a bridge fight if he doesn't fight Inoue's brother. Now, Inoue's brother looked good. He can fight too. Inoue's brother looked good. I will say that. Sorry, I don't know his name. I have to look it up. But, you know, maybe Inoue's brother or Nakatani, fights Bam in the interim. You know, Inoue indicated that he wants to have a break, which he deserves. He's been very active compared to most guys at the top of the pound for pound list. So I think there are lots of options. You know, again, shout out to these midgets. They put on a decent fight. They didn't totally prove me right. You know, they're great fighters, but again, man, these midget fights are just not for me, man. I'm looking forward to next week. Wardley Dubois. That's my kind of action, man. But yeah, man, I'll get back to you guys later tonight after Benavidez Zurdo. I might buy it, bro. I don't know. We'll pray about it. We'll see what the Lord says. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Remember, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It's free. Peace.